noting that the budget has gone up to 4.2399 trillion, which is quite a lot higher than the previous year. And it keeps escalating every year, it keeps going up. And Mr. Speaker, going through the report, because I've taken time to go through the report of the committee, there is some sense of pride that I have seen in the fact that the budget is bigger this time. And Mr. Speaker, also that the revenues, there is an increased, revenues collected. And Mr. Speaker, when you look at the reasons why the revenues have gone up, it is because of an increase in income tax, an increase in VAT, increase in excise duty collections, and also the introduction of new taxes like the housing levy. Mr. Speaker, it is important to be very careful about the wording, because I know that a lot of people are still pained at the level of the level of taxation in the country. Because when you look at the wording on Section 31, where it says that this increased revenue is reflecting optimism in the ongoing tax policy reforms and enhanced revenue administration measures. Madam Speaker, that really isn't the truth, because a lot of people out there have been complaining about the disposable income and how much lower it has gone as a result of those increased taxations. So, Mr. Speaker, it's important to be careful how we word these issues so that people do not remember the pain that they are feeling. Madam Speaker, we are also talking about an increase in appropriations in aid. And that basically is also not a positive thing, because, Madam Speaker, what it really means is that the cost of government services are also going up. And that therefore means that some of our people may not be able to afford the basic services that are supposed to be provided. So when we are celebrating an increase in revenue and celebrating an increase in collections by government agencies, then we forget that this is money coming out of the pockets of Kenyans who are promised that they would have much more money in their pockets. But despite all this, Madam Speaker, I also notice, again, as usual, we still have a hole in our budget, a deficit in our budget, a deficit to the tune of 876.1 billion. And this deficit, Madam Speaker, will be plugged by borrowing. Now, I go back 2-3 years, and I remember our political leaders were very categorical when they said, we will not borrow in future. But every single budget that is brought to this house, we have to borrow. We are still borrowing. I am not saying that borrowing is bad, but there is an amount of borrowing that goes beyond what we can afford to pay. And even the complaints by the committee itself about the cost of the debt we already have, it flies on the face of exactly what we are doing. Now, Madam Speaker, on the issue of borrowing, 284.2 billion is being borrowed externally, and 591.9 billion from the domestic market. Madam Speaker, what does that mean? Again, we are crowding out local investors. The minute the government borrows locally, it means that the money that was available for businesses to borrow so that they can finance their activities is not available, because government is an easier person, is an easier entity to lend to. So by borrowing too much money locally, it means we are crowding out the private sector. And therefore, that means in the long run, the businesses cannot thrive in this country because they have no access to loan capital. Madam Speaker, I've gone through the submissions by departmental committees, and some of them are quite horrific. I do know that there are some changes that have been made and proposed after the discussions, but let me talk about just 2 or 3 committees. The first one is the Education Committee. The Education Committee actually noticed that there was a failure to provide funds for examinations, national examinations. And Madam Speaker, this has happened in the past, and we have actually sorted out that problem through supplementary budgets. Why are we not taking the education of our children seriously, so that we can provide enough funds for all the activities required for education to take place properly? If you want to destroy a nation, just play around with the education of that country. And that is what is going on, because if you do not provide enough money from Treasury directly for examinations, then it means we are not even thinking ahead. So, Madam Speaker, that is one of the things that was raised by the departmental committee, and yet it is one thing that is already in the Basic Education Act, that which we passed. I think we made amendments in 2018, that examinations in this country for basic education will be free. Madam Speaker, the committee has also talked about substantial deficits in the Department of Higher Education to sponsor this university funding model. Madam Speaker, if we don't provide enough money for that funding model, how then are we saying that we are reviving our universities, we are helping our universities, and we are helping our children? In fact, the committee says that, and these are their words, that this will impact negatively on the students' welfare and increase financial strain on them, not to forget also on their parents. So, Madam Speaker, these are some of the problems that we are facing, the Education Department raised, the Education Committee raised. Madam Speaker, there is a proposal of provision of 4.8 billion to employ 20,000 interns. Now, I see two problems with that. First and foremost, we have interns that were already recruited, and there has been no provision for them to become permanent and pensionable. So we do not know what happens to those ones. But, Madam Speaker, the 20,000 interns that are being recruited at 4.8 billion, it means it works out to about 20,000 a month. Madam Speaker, 20,000 a month is very paltry. That is a very, very small amount. Even members here pay their chefs and their cooks a lot more than that. These are graduates in education. These are people that are supposed to make sure that they mentor the future. How do you expect to get quality education? They say when you pay peanuts, expect monkeys. How do we say that we are going to get quality education when we cannot pay our teachers properly? And you keep somebody as an intern for a whole year and pay them 20,000. At the end of the year, there is no assurance whether they will get a job or not. So, Madam Speaker, I think these are some of the things we need to address. Today in the morning, Madam Speaker, I was invited by the Committee of Education to discuss a matter of capitation. Madam Speaker, even the CS himself confirmed that the capitation that is given for basic education is not enough. In fact, it is so paltry. The amount given for primary schools is 1,420 shillings per child. That amount of money, Madam Speaker, a school of about 100, 200 children cannot even afford to pay the watchman, leave alone the other activities, tuition activities, buying of books, the activities that are for sports, drama and music and all that. They cannot afford to do all those things. So, Madam Speaker, we need to provide enough money if we want education in this country to go forward. Madam Speaker, I also looked at the issues raised by the Health Committee, because I believe that health is a very important, very important service in the country. And I've noted that one of the things that is coming out is that health being a devolved function, there is a lot of encroachment by the national government. In fact, Madam Speaker, it is so shocking, because one of the issues they've raised is an issue that was introduced by the previous government, previous regime, I think from about 2016, 2017, thereabouts, of the medical equipment scheme. This project was a mess. This project failed. This project was implemented without even the involvement of county governments. And therefore, county governments were bought equipment and they were taken to their hospitals that they are not requested for. Some of those equipments are still being paid for, and that is why there is a debt of 6.5 billion. And these equipment, some of them are not being used at all, because they are not, some of the hospitals don't even have the practitioners, the medical practitioners that can use those equipments. Now we have moved from there and we are introducing another one. We are talking now about a new one, and we are calling it National Equipment Service Program, NESP, which has been started. Madam Speaker, I also noticed that there is construction of health centers, which is in the second schedule of this report, meaning jobs that are supposed purely to be undertaken by county governments are being done by national government. When will national government allow counties to do their job and do what is expected of them? No wonder people keep fighting between CDF and I heard people even say that maybe we need to give CDF to the governors, because it looks like the fourth schedule of the Constitution is not being respected. So let us ensure that those responsibilities that are devolved are taken to the counties, and the counties can carry out those activities, and those that are for national government are the ones that we deal with, because we are dealing with a budget for the national government. The one for counties, once we do the division of revenue, it is now up to MCS to decide how they will spend their money, not for us to decide.
I can give you a minute to finish your sentence. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and you're very gracious. So, Madam Speaker, I want to just finish by saying that I looked at the second schedule, and some of the things I saw are quite shocking. the sharing of resources. I saw some of us come from an area which we have scarcity of water. And you look at the Department of Irrigation and you notice there's only 1 or 2 small projects that are given in that region I come from. Whereas the other areas that are getting a lot more money. I think when it comes to the fair distribution of resources, we must bite the bullet and agree that as we go into the future doing our budgets, we must look at what goes to every constituency, and that must be also a schedule that is given to us so that we know how much each of us is expecting to go to their people so that we can defend and make sure that it serves our people. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Adan Kainan, Member for Elders.
We are not counting this. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Budget and Appropriation Committee has officially submitted its comprehensive report